Happy Monday, everyone! Welcome to Kwentuhang Pilipina, a podcast and community that aims to be a safe space for everyone to listen and be heard. Here at Kwentuhang Pilipina, we aim to converse with different Filipinos around the globe for their inspiring kwentos. I am your sunshine, Cleo, the founder of Hiraye Pilipina, and your host here at Kwentuhang Pilipina. For today's episode, we have Dr. Filomena San Juan, an obstetrician gynecologist who is known for her impacts as a women's health advocate. Guys, this kwentuhan is really worth listening talaga. Hinding-hindi kayo magsisisi because napakaraming valuable information ang mapakikinggan nyo, like Doctora's thoughts on having sex education in schools here in the Philippines, and about why we must really consult gynecologists and why we shouldn't be afraid to do that. Hindi ko na ito patatagalin pa. Here is my kwentuhan with Dr. Filomena. Hi, Doktora! Kamusta naman po kayo?
Good afternoon naman.
Good afternoon na pala. Ayun po. So, Doktora, start po natin itong episode natin with true or false. Magbabanggit po ako ng mga myths sa ating reproductive health and feel free to say if it is true or false, yes or no, plus a quick explanation. Using a menstrual cup will de-virginize you.
Which one? The menstrual cup? In a way, if you don't know how to insert it, because it's quite parang plastic, no?
Yes po.
But if you know how to insert it and you insert it very, very, very slowly, then it might not. But if you're very young, the hymen is still the opening is very small. So there is a possibility that it will lacerate the hymen. But maybe that the virginization means there is multiple laceration of the hymen. So if it's only the virginal cup, maybe just a little one, but not really a big one. Just like when one has an actual sexual intercourse.
I see po. And I think kahit naman po it will de-virginize you, I think it shouldn't be a big issue anymore because even virginity is only a social construct.
Right.
I'm glad that you agree po, Doktora. Number 2, taking birth control pills will affect one's ability to have children in the future.
Not actually, because it gives you the freedom to plan your family. So if you're not ready, you're still a student, and you still have many plans for your profession, then you can really take it as long as you don't have any contraindications, of course. And then you can take it but you don't have to take it very long. Not more than 5 years. Then you have to rest, maybe 1-2 years. Then you take a rest, and then you change it with another form of contraception, maybe a condom. Okay, and then after a few months, you can revive your pills. But of course, when you're taking the pills, it's better to have it under the supervision of a gynecologist. So, because there are also some side effects. So it's better that the gynecologist can take your history and do some physical exam and then give you the final go signal, okay, you can take the pills.
I see po. I am learning a lot already kahit nasa icebreaker pa lang po tayo ng episode na ito. Thank you po. And then, this one naman po, have you ever imagined that you would become a congresswoman during your childhood years?
I did not expect it because I wanted to be a doctor. But I wanted to also practice in my province. So what happened is that there was never a regional hospital that was done. The hospital that I saw was an old house that was donated by an old medical health officer who retired. So it's not really for a region, for the region, you know, it's very small. So I thought that maybe I should run in Congress and, you know, ask Congress and ask the DOH to make the implementing rules and regulation and really make a budget for a true regional hospital. But that was 15 years ago when the Republic Act was signed by the president, and it was never implemented. So when I went back, when I won, I went to Congress and then asked the DOA secretary why, what happened, and he did not even know because he was there were several secretaries before him. So I asked him to do the implementing rules and regulations, and then I asked him to give the budget, but there's no more budget because at that time the budget for a hospital when the law was approved was only 50 million. But at the time that I was in Congress, you need about 350 million, and Congress did not have that budget. So then I told them that since it is not the fault of the people of Zamboanga del Sur, of the second district, that that hospital was not established, then he should, you know, in his office, save maybe 35 million a year until 10 years that he can have the 10, the 350 million and make the hospital. And so 10 years after the first time that I stepped in Congress, they were able to have the money. And during the time of Secretary, 10 years after, during his time, the ONA, during the time of Secretary ONA of the Department of Health, that hospital was started to be constructed. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was such a fulfilling experience to do kahit po sa maikling panahon na yon. So I just want to ask, Doktora, how do you think that this experience has changed your life in a way?
Yeah, it has opened my eyes to the needs of our countrymen in the rural areas. That they're really, you know, the government sometimes does not reach them in
Yes
those
po.
areas. uh, I think our politicians and our congressmen, especially, they are the ones representing them in the national government for the national projects. They should concentrate on those. We are not only concentrating on law making. I was one of the author of the violence against women. It has been lingering in Congress for a long time. So when I was there, we were able to pass it.
Now, Doktora, I want to talk about with you your training and you being an obstetrician gynecologist now.
From elementary, I went to the public schools in Pagadian. Mababang paaralan ng Central School ng Pagadian. And then in pre-med, I was a scholar in a Mindanao State University in Marawi City. And then from there, I went to UP for my medicine. So I was lucky to have been accepted there because UP at the time, the UP College of Medicine would only accept 100 students per year. So,
Wow.
so that was really a privilege. And then I finished my 4 years in my internship at UP College of Medicine, and then I was accepted to be a training resident for obstetrics and gynecology for 3 years at the UPPGH, Philippine General Hospital, which is the training hospital of the National University. And then on my last year in residency, I was chosen to be the chief resident. So I stayed one more year to become the chief of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology. And when I finished my chief residency, I was invited by the department to become a consultant, teaching consultant of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, UP College of Medicine. I would like that opportunity of becoming a professor in the College of Medicine give me the ability to transfer whatever knowledge I have to the doctors. I was invited to become a scholar in Japan to have my PhD in medical science. So my thesis then was on cancer from pregnancy, treatment of gestational trophoblastic tumor. We asked the government of Japan and the a local company there to donate a machine then I brought it back to Philippine General Hospital and established the OBGYN ultrasound unit and taught the initial, more senior residents, taught them how to do the ultrasound, and then established the subspecialty on OBGYN ultrasound. So it was a trail blazer because it started for PGAs, and then our graduates went to other hospitals and universities and established also the OBGYN ultrasound unit.
Doctora, you are an obstetrician gynecologist now. Just to make it clear, and for our listeners who do not really know what it means yet, can you please share it with us what it means to be an obstetrician gynecologist and what do you do?
Yeah, obstetrician gynecologist takes care of the reproductive health of women.
Okay.
So reproductive health meaning the uterus, the cervix, the pelvic organs, the
Yes.
female organs, uh, the womb, and then the ovaries, and also the pregnancy and the diseases that comes from this organ system. So we deliver babies, we take care of pregnant women, we deliver babies, and we also take care of women who are menopause. So we take care of women from birth to tomb. you know,
Wow. Yes po,
so
yes po.
deliver the baby, in the womb, we already take care of the baby during the prenatal checkup. And then when they grow up, they become adolescent, they have some problems. We also take care of them. And then when they are in the reproductive age group, meaning they get married and they have children, we also take care of them, of their reproductive health. And then when they go into menopause, they have other problems like menopause, and so give them hormonal replacement therapy. And we also watch for cancer because at this time, when they reach the age of 40 and above, women have more cancer than the younger ones. Give the women some education as to how to take care and how to prevent the risk factors to decrease the incidence of cancer in the pelvic organs.
So, Doctora, at what age are women advised to visit a gynecologist for a checkup? Do you think it is essential?
Of course, for example, from infancy to 18 years old, you go to the pediatrician, right?
Yes.
Pedia. Pedia.
Yes.
But if you have some problems in the lower abdomen, like you have some pain, you have abnormalities in your breathing, or you have some normal discharge, or you have some problems with regards to contraception, then you can already seek the consult of the uh, obstetrician gynecologist.
I
Like, for
see.
example, cervical cancer is the second most common cancer in the Philippines. And usually 80% of these cases we diagnose late. They come in already stage 3 and 4. So, the treatment is not very good at this stage because it has already gone beyond the pelvic and to the distant organs. So, in order to prevent, the best prevention is, of course, vaccination for cervical cancer. And we would like this vaccination to be done in the adolescent or early childhood, like 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, before the onset of coitar, before the onset of sexual intercourse.
Okay.
Because the virus that causes cervical cancer, which is the 90% cause of cervical cancer, the human papilloma virus, that can be prevented if you have already the vaccine. Before you have sexual contact or before you get pregnant, you should have already the vaccine. So you have to tell your mother because your mother maybe do not know that. And
Yes, for sure, for sure.
the pediatrician is also not aware because they only give vaccine for measles, for MMR, mumps, measles, maybe influenza, but they don't give the human papilloma virus or HPV vaccine because the women that come to us already had sexual intercourse before. They're already adults. And so we are not sure whether the vaccine that we'll be giving them will be very effective because they might have already the virus. So it's more effective if you have it done, have it given at an early age. Now,
Wow.
however, if there is no better late than never, if you get pregnant, maybe before you have your or you become an adult, or before you have a boyfriend, maybe you should get that vaccine to prevent, the
Cervical
HPV virus.
cancer. Yeah.
Yes.
For sure, that is such valuable information because, Doctora, since we're talking about menstruation, sexuality,
Yes.
cervical cancer, and so on, it is no doubt that this is still a taboo topic here in the Philippines.
I'm very glad you have this podcast because this,
Yes.
this is a good educational, way education for our young women.
Yes,
Okay.
for sure. And this is also a safe space for them to learn about these topics because I can attest that it is still a taboo topic here in the Philippines because my mother actually did not teach me anything about this. And it's just a
Ah,
topic that most Filipino households do not normally talk about. So, Doctora, we would like to give you this opportunity to talk to our listeners about the importance of consulting a gynecologist and why they should not be afraid to do it.
for our mothers and for our young women and of course the adult women, it's really very important to go to a gynecologist. Actually, if you're a young woman and you're an adolescent, you have problems with your menstruation, or you feel something, a mass in your abdomen, then you should see a gynecologist because there are cancers of the ovary in the young. It can even occur at 5 years old, 9 years old, although it's rare, but it does occur. Okay, so if you don't have your menstruation, maybe at age 12, 14, maybe it's better for you to see a gynecologist. Or if you have uh, prolonged menstruation, then maybe it's also to consult a gynecologist. Now, with regards to the vaccine, I think you have to tell your pediatrician, I want this vaccine. Now, if the pediatrician does not give it, then you can go to a gynecologist, and we give it in our clinics. The HPV vaccine. Now, when you want some advice as far as contraception is concerned, then you go to a gynecologist because there are several ways for contraception, but there are also some contraindications. So the gynecologist would have to examine you, and if we see that it's safe for you to use this type of contraception, then we'll give it to you. Okay. The only problem is when you're below 18 years old, you have to come with your mom because your mom will give the consent because you cannot have your consent below 18. But I think the moms should be aware that there are already vaccinations that should be given to the children, to their young girls, adolescent girls, earlier before they get pregnant or before they
Yes.
contract virus.
Yes.
Okay, and then, it's good for you to know if you're not prepared. It's good to know what are the risk factors. For example, for cervical cancer, what are the risk factors for cervical cancer when you have very early sexual contact? Because the cervix is not yet fully mature, that is more prone to be affected by the virus. So when you have it at a very early age of sexual contact, it's possible that the virus can easily get into the cervical canal or the cervix and the vaginal mucosa. But however, when you're young, the good thing is you have better immune response. However, you do not know whether this virus will persist up to the age 20 and above. So when this virus persists there, so it's important that you have your pap smear at age 25. If you have symptoms, if you think that you had multiple partners before, then you have your examination. You should see a gynecologist even at age 20. If you have symptoms below age 20, you have symptoms like an abnormal yellowish or brownish vaginal discharge, unusually increased vaginal discharge, then you should also see the gynecologist because it's possible that even if you're young, you can still get what we call the sexually transmitted diseases. So you have to see gynecologist for that. Otherwise, for example, if you get diseases like chlamydia or gonorrhea and you have not been treated, this will affect your reproductive organs. Like this can cause constriction or infection of your fallopian tube where the egg passes going to the uterus. So if the fallopian tube is infected and you have an abscess, then you cannot get pregnant later on.
While I
But
was listening to you po, nakuha ko po is that sa kahit anong age, whether you are an adult or you are still a young girl in your adolescence, it's very
yeah,
important to consult or to go to a gynecologist so you will have
yeah,
proper guidance.
yes, especially if you are already sexually active, because you can have vaginitis from bacteria, you can have sexually transmitted diseases, you can even have HIV. For all you know, HIV only very few get the test. But I would advise that in order to prevent this, uh, you should know your partner. But of course, you do not know your partner because you don't know if your partner has multiple partners also, and that partner of yours who have other partners can also have multiple partners. So that will make you more prone to sexually transmitted disease and even for cervical cancer. So it's better to have the examination to make sure that there is no infection in order for you to be prepared when you want to settle down and have the family.
Yes, prevention is indeed better than cure. This
Yes.
time, Dr. Filomena, we would like to ask you some questions that our audience would also like to know more about because I actually made an Instagram story earlier and I told them that this is their opportunity to ask anything with regards to women's health. So, most of these questions are actually the concerns of teenagers nowadays.
Okay. So
First,
give me the questions.
very excited to know about these, Doctora. First, is it
Yes.
okay not to shave your pubic hair? And if a woman or a man choose to remove their pubic hair because, for example, they want to go to the beach and wear a bikini, what option do you recommend to remove the pubic hair?
Because of this bikini, these are really very small. You know, it's not also a good sight to see hairs coming out from your bikini. So you
Yeah.
can them if you like. You can cut. You can cut with scissors. Because when you sometimes when you
Yeah, Brazilian
get
wax.
the waxing, sometimes it causes infection. You have to be very sure that the area is very clean before you wax them, and you don't touch that area so you don't cause infection from the bacteria from your hands. Because there was a time that this is really a fad. I don't know. Some of my patients come already without the hair, but sometimes it's their priority. They don't want the hair there, but if it's only for using a bikini, you can just cut the edges if you want. But sometimes they want to wax it just to make sure that you'll not get infected. When you have it, you do it days before you go to the beach because there's also a lot of bacteria in the water, or in the swimming pool. So be sure that you have the wax. You have wax it maybe 5 days before or 3 days before in order for the pores to close because it's open, it's easily infected. Yeah,
How about shaving, Doctora? Do you recommend it? Or what you recommend the most is cutting the
because
pubic?
shaving is cheaper, than having the wax.
Yes.
And you can shave it, but the problem is sometimes you have abrasion, you abrade the skin. So you have to put maybe some soap to make it easier to shave, not a dry one. Or you put some cream so that it will just slide on the skin and not abrade the skin. Because when you abrade or you incise the skin, then you'll be prone to infection.
But Doctora, if for example, this person is someone who prefers not to shave their pubic hair, is that all right?
Yeah, sure. It's all right because I think God did not put it there for no reason at all. It's
Yeah.
also
Okay, Doctor. It's completely natural, guys. Number two, this is about using menstrual cups. So, Doctor, do you encourage using menstrual cups over napkins and tampons during menstruation? Because from what I heard in this webinar that I also attended as a guest speaker, she has a brand that offers menstrual cups, and she mentioned that the difference of using a menstrual cup is that it collects the blood and it does not absorb. So, from a gynecologist's perspective, is that a good thing? Is using a menstrual cup a good thing?
anything that you insert in the vagina, can cause infection because you put something there. You don't know how clean that menstrual cup is, so how clean the hands are. And then, of course, when you have to remove the blood should be removed for some time because if you have it there for a long time, it's a good medium for bacteria. Remember, the vagina has a lot of bacteria, okay? But others are good bacteria, others are, you know, uh, bad bacteria, that can cause vaginitis. So if you have the blood there for a long time, it becomes a culture medium. They thrive in that blood, and the bacteria may increase in number. Okay, when you have that blood staying in the vagina for a long time, so you have to replace that. But when you replace it also so often, your chances of getting infection is also high. But maybe that's good for when certain conditions, like if you're in a contest, swimming contest, maybe if you're in a bathing suit and you're swimming, maybe you can use that, to prevent staining. But for the usual use, maybe you can just use your napkin. That would be better because you can change it as often as you can. You don't wait for the napkin to be soaked for a long time. Once it's moderately soaked, you change it because it's a good medium for bacteria coming from the rectum and also coming from outside the vulva, the vagina. So, in order to decrease the incidence of infection in the genital tract, then you have to change your napkin so often.
Got it, Doctora. So I'm actually assured that wearing napkins during menstruation it's all right. It is normal
Yeah.
as long as you do not wait for it to be completely soaked before you change it, right?
Yeah.
Now, Doctora, I want to talk with you about sex education, another taboo topic in this country. This is our second to the last question already, and we are
Yeah.
very grateful for all the new information that we learned today. So, what is your opinion on contraceptives such as condoms being given in schools in the Philippines? Do you think that by making this accessible to students while also teaching them the right way on how to use it will be an effective way to prevent teen pregnancy?
Yes, of course. I think sexual education should be taught even in
Wow.
elementary, let's say
Yes.
grade 6 or grade 5, because some children will have their menstruation already at that time. At 9, 10, 11, they can have their menstruation. And, because of social media, because of internet, children, elementary and high school are more exposed to sex, no, because you can access it there in the YouTube or in the internet. So I think sexual education is very important so that they can protect themselves against sexually transmitted diseases, against uh, unplanned pregnancy, because we know that when you're young and when you get pregnant, you have you get more morbidity, and some women can even die when they get pregnant very early because of some complications during pregnancy. So then the doctor or the sex education teacher can teach the students on how to prevent, sexually transmitted disease, that how to prevent infection, how to prevent unplanned pregnancy, what kind of contraception to be used. But some sectors of our society do not want it.
Accessible in school.
But I think it's better to be knowledgeable than non-knowledgeable at all. Because when they get pregnant and it's unplanned and they don't know what to do, they might go to an abortionist and they get infection and they get septic shock, or they can even die. Or they can get infection and then later on they have difficulty getting pregnant. So I think it's women's right to protect, your own body. You have autonomy to protect your own body, and therefore you have the right to know, to have the knowledge. Yeah.
Doctora, I agree
Yeah.
with you so much because as an advocate of women empowerment myself, these types of information should be accessible to us and
Yes.
hindi siya dapat pine-prevent from us accessing the information just because they think that we might do the act just because we are knowledgeable about it. So thank you so much for raising that.
I think the schools should not prevent you because it's open.
Yeah,
At least you have
true.
from somebody. Because if you're gonna read it on internet, there's a lot of fake news also and fake information in the internet. So, but it is accessible to you. You can read it even if they don't like it. But at least if there is somebody there who's teaching the right sex education and contraception, then you will be guided. Then
Yes.
you will be guided.
Sabi nga nila, kung hindi sa school mapag-aaralan, maraming ibang paraan at for sure matututuan pa rin ng bata. Pero hindi with proper guidance, just like what you said.
Yeah, right. Proper guidance is very important.
Doctora, we are now down to our last question and we are very grateful to have you here at Kwentuang Pilipina. Now, I want to ask you because it is very important to have a why. So that you will have a reason to continue when things get difficult along the way. Like yung why mo, yung pangahawakan mo po eh. And for sure, now that you are a doctor, there were a lot of challenges before you got here. And even now that you are already practicing what you studied in a lot of years. So, Dr. Filomena, I just want to ask you, why do you choose to become an obstetrician gynecologist? What is your why?
Well, because I thought that if I would just be giving medicine, like an internal medicine, I wouldn't be able to help a person if they have some tumors in the body or they have some problems with their organs. So I wanted to be a surgeon at the same time. So by becoming an obstetrician gynecologist, you're both an internal medicine specialist. At the same time, you're also a surgeon because we operate. Like in my subspecialty, or even if I'm an OBGYN, I can operate on big tumors in the uterus, myoma, I can remove polyps, I can remove ovarian cysts before they get ruptured and cause internal bleeding. So I want to be a complete doctor in my specialty. So I would like to diagnose it and be able to operate on the patient. And if operation is not the treatment, then I can give the medication. So if the patient becomes pregnant and that pregnant is diabetes, thyroid problems, then I should know about diabetes in pregnancy, thyroid in pregnancy. So I also become an internist during pregnancy. So it widens my perspective and it gives me wider chance to help the patient rather than don't know what to do, refer, or just leave the patient behind. I would be able to treat her completely. So that is why I wanted the obstetrician gynecologist. I want to deliver babies. It's a privilege to deliver babies in this world and operate. And also, I want to be a complete doctor. Yeah.
Wow, Doctora, you are living a very good life and I am inspired by our kwentuhan today.
What stayed with me in my kwentuhan with Dr. Filomena is that I am called to action, that I should take the vaccine against HPV, and we all should. Kasi ngayon ko lang napakinggan at natutuhan yon honestly, so I am truly grateful for this kwentuhan. You can reach Dr. Filomena and even book an appointment with her on this website, maniladoctors.com.ph. Again, it is maniladoctors.com.ph. When you are asked to find the doctor on the page, just search San Juan, Doctora's last name, and you will find Doctora Filomena San Juan with her specialization on obstetrics and gynecology, and her subspecialty is gynecological oncology. You can also reach Manila Doctors Hospital and their telephone number +632-8558-0888, local 410. Once again, thank you guys so much for listening to this kwentuhan, and I will see you again next Monday. Have a great week ahead!